Why did you fail to finish Steve's house?
Every year, thousands of us decide to improve our homes.
Probably the best part of a year I slept in the garage, just on the floor, because that at least had a roof.
But what happens when we hire the wrong person?
Probably not quite a breakdown, but possibly very, very close.
We take you inside the homes ruined by dodgy construction.
I chased the builder through telephone, text message, email. After some time, he stopped talking completely.
And conduct the most extensive ever investigation into cowboy builders.
Currently, the state of play is almost at a tipping point, I would say.
We expose the scale of suspected criminality and find a system totally unfit to deal with it.
The whole thing is completely unregulated. We need to find a licensing regime, and if they don't get it right, they lose their license and then they lose their livelihood.
Here's the kitchen, which is more or less functional at the moment, if you include the wires that are gaffer taped to the ceiling.
Karen and her son Francis don't own a home, they own a building site. Its very bones on show just above their heads. Exposed wires run along the ceiling, a very literal reminder of what's been hanging over them for 4 years.
These are the acros that actually held up our roof for some time.
As we walk through their Wiltshire property, the damage is everywhere.
This is holding your roof up.
It was, yeah, for a while.
Karen wanted a loft conversion in 2022, but instead she was left with this.
Got the cracks in the wall. I think there's still a plastic bag over the top of the shower from when it used to rain on the inside.
Behind them, their hallway is still full of tools and materials.
This is the room I sleep in at the moment. So my bed's on boxes at the moment. Lost nearly all the furniture during it. My sofas, everything got ruined with the rain. The rain that came in through the roof and waterlogs. So this is daily living for me.
What they could salvage remains in boxes.
The start of things going wrong was little mistakes that kept happening. So somebody putting their foot through a ceiling and then the ceiling collapsing, that gets explained away. They convince you this is going to get fixed, this can happen on any job, these are normal. Probably the best part of a year I slept in the garage, just on the floor, sort of, because that at least had a roof.
And what was the state that your roof was in?
There were holes everywhere, parts of it were collapsing. They'd cut through some of the structure of it so that the roof was basically spreading the walls of the house open.
And this was how their nightmare unfolded. Inside the front room of the house, their vaulted ceiling was a mess. Structurally, it wasn't fixed properly, so the weight of the roof wasn't supported. The scale of the build clear from underneath. These videos recorded by Francis document the works as they started to go wrong. Wooden rafters were loose and cut wrongly.
Don't actually quite touch the wall.
Their vaulted ceiling wasn't even level, and the steelwork failed to meet building regulations. These should have been mechanically fixed, but we can see they aren't. At the end of the room, their loft conversion was no better. When it rained outside, it also rained inside. The internal damage from flooding ruined most of Karen and Francis's possessions. Above the kitchen, the ceiling and walls from the loft conversion work were sloping too. This was the quality of it. Things were cracking and not fixed safely. A chartered surveyor assessed the works. Their conclusion, it would need to be totally rebuilt at an additional cost of £110,000. They say they'd already paid about £90,000.
How has all of this impacted you?
Emotionally, probably just emotionally, I'm probably damaged forever for employing people, really. That sounds crazy, doesn't it?
Francis, how does it make you feel seeing your mum get this emotional?
I'm not very good at dealing with I think I'm probably clinging onto the edge of breaking down a bit myself on most things, on most days, to be honest. And it really is painful to see it. I know I sometimes have days or times that I blame myself for the whole thing, because you think, why didn't I see something? Why didn't I see more? Why didn't I do more? Was there more to do? Why did we trust anybody at any point?
Karen and her son Francis have been living like this because of their builder, and we found that tens of thousands of other people could be too. We wanted to find out just how many people have gone through what Karen and Francis have.
We approached hundreds of councils for information, and we found that nearly 40,000 homeowners complained to their local authority about building works gone wrong in the last year.
And this was what shocked us. Half of those complaints involve suspected criminality, with homeowners falling victim to suspected building scams or so-called cowboy builders. And despite over 17,500 complaints like this, only 43 cowboy builders in England, Scotland and Wales were successfully prosecuted.
Freedom of information requests were submitted to over 350 councils. We mapped out the 17,500 plus complaints of suspected criminality. Accounting for population size, the worst affected area is Stoke-on-Trent, with 108 complaints for every 100,000 people living there. This was followed by Kingston-upon-Thames, the City of York and Rotherham. Homeowners also face a postcode lottery on enforcement. We found extreme variation in resourcing between the services dedicated to pursuing rogue traders. Many areas have clearly inadequate staffing levels. The darker areas on the map have one or fewer full-time trading standards employees for every 100,000 people. One of those places is Shropshire, but just over the border in Herefordshire, they have a resource that is over 7 times bigger, with a team of at least 4 for every 100,000 residents. And despite tens of thousands of complaints, we found that 1/3 of councils didn't make a single prosecution, seen here in orange. Only 43 cowboy builders were successfully taken through the courts. The numbers paint a picture, and it's one that's failing the victims of rogue traders.
If you're spending tens of thousands of pounds on your home, then the scope for things going wrong is really quite big. We're on our way to meet a man called Steve, who hired a building company to completely redo his home in 2022, except that what happened next left him without a home completely. We're just reaching his property now. Oh wow, just bricks. That is not a home at all. Wow, there are literally just bricks here and just a floor. It's just a foundation.
Steve's builder was paid to demolish his home and entirely rebuild its foundations and structure. But 4 years later, this is what remains.
Steve, this is your home.
Yes, yeah, well, what's left of it.
You've got to be really careful, actually, stepping onto it. I'm struck by how big it is.
It's quite big.
And so you've got all of this brickwork around the side of it, and I'm assuming this must have been for the walls.
The walls were actually built up, like probably up to about your height, just one single skin all the way around, which obviously blew over when there was a strong breeze.
And so where are you actually living now?
Just in that outbuilding there with the white door.
And so you're living in a box?
Yeah, pretty much a cell of my own making.
You just called it a cell.
Well, it's four walls and a door in, like one way in, one way out.
Wow.
There's no windows.
These are your, hopes and dreams for your future life, and you're standing just, it's bricks and concrete.
Yeah, I'll get there eventually. It'll just take longer, but it's a shame, obviously, what happened with the builder.
Steve was paralysed from his chest down in a motorbike accident aged 26. His home was meant to be adapted to help him live freely. After the demolition, Steve queried whether the foundations were the right size, a question which ended up costing him more than just his money.
The project cost around 170,000, and I paid that up front.
So you paid your builder £170,000 up front, and you were expecting the entire structure of your house to be done?
Yep.
And when did this start to go wrong? What did you start to notice?
It was when they started telling me that there's a problem with the drawings.
So the foundations, the width and the length were wrong?
Yeah, he agreed to put it right slowly alongside other works, but obviously he never actually come back to do it. I chased the builder through telephone, text message, email. Eventually he was then claiming financial difficulty, and then after some time he stopped talking completely. I sought legal advice. It was $7,500 for the court pre-action letter, and they gave me an informal figure of 80 to 120,000 to fully take it to court because of the value of the claim.
So essentially, you've paid £170,000 up front to your builder.
Yep.
You've been quoted 80 to 120,000 to then pursue it in court, and then you've got the rebuild cost as well.
Yep.
So you're not pursuing it?
No, I'm not going to bother, because they did say right in the beginning you can spend all that and not get anything back. We see this all the time as litigators, and we just want to make that very clear.
How has all of this impacted your life?
It's like psychological impact, but that's pretty much all it was. Depression, that sort of stuff. But well, I'm in a wheelchair, so depression's part of life.
At the edge of his 3-acre plot is a path leading into what Steve called his cell. The ramp in requires effort. With no windows, it's dark inside. The corridor only just wide enough. It's full of everything he owns.
Hello, Bubba.
A place he's had to make his home.
Come here, girl.
His 2 cats, his pride and joy.
Steve's case is absolutely shocking. He contacted the consumer service Citizens Advice for help. They then passed his information on to Trading Standards, but he says that he never heard back. And his experience is actually quite common. Many people never get their case looked into because of this postcode lottery that we told you about earlier.
We still had unanswered questions. Where does accountability lie? For that, we headed back out onto the road.
We're on our way to try to speak to Steve's builder, Nick Keeley, to ask him why he failed to finish the project despite having so much money from Steve. We wrote to him to ask him this, but we never got a response. So I'm going to try to speak to him face to face. We've got here really early to try to catch up with Steve's builder before he leaves the house. And this is someone who has failed to finish the work on Steve's home, and it's left Steve living in the most awful conditions. And I'm certainly keen to see whether he takes any responsibility for this at all.
We watched from our car, Mike ready to go. An hour and a half later, we spotted him.
Nick Keeley, Sky News. Why did you fail to finish Steve's house? Why did you fail to finish Steve's house? What have you done with the £170,000 he paid you? Why did you repeatedly assure him you would return? Do you have anything at all to say? Are you a cowboy builder? Well, this is Nick leaving. Clearly had absolutely nothing to say. It's clear he didn't want to speak to us at all. That is what accountability looks like today. This is someone whose client paid him £170,000 up front. He was very trusting of his builder. The question is, did he abuse that trust? He didn't answer. He didn't give us any answers at all.
I couldn't see how Steve's case would be resolved, and we know he's not alone. It was time to set up a meeting with Trading Standards. For that, we needed Dr. Tim Day from the membership body that represents Trading Standards professionals.
So currently the state of play is almost at a tipping point, I would say. We don't have the resources to do everything that we need to do. When you look around the country, there are some authorities who have like one full-time equivalent or less than one full-time equivalent officer. When you get into that sort of level of resource, you can see why authorities can't take prosecutions. You're looking at in the region of 50% cuts to trading standards since 2010. So over the last 15 years, effectively, real terms, our resources have been cut in half.
So effectively, a lot of things fall through the cracks.
Unfortunately, that is the situation that we're in at the moment. So if it's a one-off complaint, there are many local authorities who are going to be looking at and thinking, we can't justify the cost of getting somebody in to just look at this one case. It's just not cost effective. They can't do it with the budgets that they've got.
What we've uncovered is that the system just simply isn't working. And actually, something happened during the filming of this investigation which really makes this point. We interviewed another woman who had reported her builder to Trading Standards. Her case was then taken to court. Her builder was convicted and ordered to pay her tens of thousands of pounds. But what happened next, nobody could have predicted. It turns out that in the meantime, her builder had been back to the court and his criminal conviction had been set aside, meaning it was dropped. The court then told us there was a new trial date for next year. But amazingly, Trading Standards, who are the prosecuting body, had zero knowledge of any of this. And crucially, nor did the homeowner, who said she had to find out from me that she wasn't getting her money anytime soon.
And with failures like this happening across the country, who has the power to change it?
The construction sector is one that is completely unregulated. There are no legal safeguards to ensure builders meet basic standards. Specialised trades like gas engineers or electricians must be registered, but general construction lacks these basic protections. And it means that for consumers, when things go wrong, they have very few places to turn. And that's prompting calls for the professionalisation of an industry where anybody can set themselves up as a builder.
Leading those calls is the MP Mark Garnier, who's proposed a law to change this.
At the end of the day, there is no mechanism to make sure that builders actually do the work properly, aside from going to a court, which is a hideously expensive experience. So we need to find a licensing regime that means that all builders find themselves regulated, and if they don't get it right, they lose their license and then they lose their livelihood.
And what would a licensing scheme look like?
So essentially, there would be various elements of it. What I'm trying to get is a licensing regime that is simple, straightforward, makes sure that those people who control businesses are licensed, all the way through to those people who do the work, who are also licensed. If they don't deliver what they're expected to deliver under the terms of the license, they will lose that license and they won't be able to work in the industry ever again.
So we've heard there that the building sector is this unregulated Wild West. We've heard from Karen and Francis, who face paying tens of thousands of pounds to have their building work fixed. We've heard from Steve, who quite simply has no home at all. We've also heard from Dr. Tim Day, who says the services that investigate building crime are so severely stretched. And we've heard from the MP, Mark Garnier, who says there's no regulation and we need a licensing scheme. So where do we go from here?
We also contacted Karen and Francis's builder, but we didn't get a reply. The pair say they've contacted 18 different bodies for help, including Wiltshire Trading Standards, who told them they wouldn't be in a position to prosecute this offence. No one has pursued their case beyond initial investigations.
I'm so paranoid about everything now. I remember ringing up from the garage in tears one morning and just saying, we need to pack the whole thing in. I can't cope with this. We need to. I know you've lost everything, but I can't.
There's no support for people like this. It took me probably a year to realise that I was probably gone into kind of just a probably not quite a breakdown, but possibly very, very close to breakdown, as close as anyone could come, I think.
And then this part of the house is where things are nearly back to livable standard.
Not only do they have a home that's been ruined, but their lives have been too.
They were meant to world around all three sides. Well, they've managed one and sort of halfway round on each side, which I suppose is better than nothing.
And we've found that tens of thousands of others have gone through the same, facing a system that fails to prevent cowboys and fails to prosecute too.